Ave Maris Stella.
Hello and welcome back to Vatican II in a Year. This is your host, Father Matthew Schneider. I am a priest of the Church of Christ and I teach theology. This is a podcast on the Star Coast Production Network at sqpn.com. Today we are on day 103 and we are talking about Orientalia Ecclesiarum 24 through 26 on the union with Eastern rites in the liturgy. If you want to follow along, we have reading plan and more details at sqpn.com/Vatican, frmatthewlc.com/Vatican. Yesterday we talked about a few aspects of divine worship like feast days and family unity. Today we are going to talk a little bit in the first two numbers about unity and converts from Orthodoxy, and then we are going to talk a little bit about rules for sharing sacraments in paragraph 26, which will continue on tomorrow as well. So this is the section. Actually, I have a type. I forgot to change that. I listed as a section, but it's a section relations with the brethren of the separated churches, because I still listed yesterday's. Going a little too fast here and making these. But anyways, today we're going to move to paragraph 24. Eastern Catholics are important in promoting unity. It's one long sentence, so let's read it. The Eastern Church, in communion with the Apostolic See of Rome, have a special duty of promoting the unity of Christians, especially Eastern Christians, in accordance with the principle of the decree about ecumenism of the Sacred Council, by prayer in their first place, and by the example of their lives, by religious fidelity to the ancient Eastern traditions, by a greater knowledge of each other, by collaboration with a brotherly regard for the objects and feelings. So, we will start this decree about ecumenism, not its formal name. We'll start on that actually like in 2 days. So we'll talk about that then, because that's really about ecumenism in general, both with Orthodoxy and with Protestants. And we really want these Orthodox back in union, right? The division is much less than the division with Protestants, because realistically, the main thing is the level of authority the Pope has. That's the main point of division, right? And then actual, direct union in the kind of authority figures there as well. And the Eastern Catholics bridge these worlds. They have the rights of, the Ukrainians or whatever else, and they're union with the Pope. So hopefully they can bridge that gap, right? So that's hopefully there. And so there are a number of modes of unity listed here, right? The prayer. How do they pray? They pray for unity. They pray you can pray with them, right? A lot of prayers, we'll talk about in a little bit about possibility of sacramental ones, but non-sacramental prayers are, we can pray them perfectly fine. Like, if I join the Lutherans and the Anglicans, the Orthodox, we all pray the Our Father and read a psalm. We all agree on that, right? By their example, right? Showing that example of a holy life, showing that example of all that they know, fidelity to the Eastern rites, right? That example of the right they have, knowledge of each other, collaboration, and brotherly regard, right? So they know the other Orthodox, they work with them, and they regard them as brothers, not as enemies. So that's an important aspect. Now, paragraph 25 is two things about converts. It's about converts in general, and then about priests who convert. So let's read it. If any separated Eastern Christian should, under the guidance of the grace of the Holy Spirit, join himself to the unity of Catholics, no more should be required of him than a bare profession of the Catholic faith demands. Eastern clerics, seeing that a valid priesthood is preserved among them, are permitted to exercise the orders they possess on joining the unity of the Catholic Church in accordance with the regulations established by the competent authority. So, right, this is where we want to say, hey, the Eastern Orthodox, they have proper sacraments, they have proper doctrine. And once one accepts papal authority, the profession of faith, they are fully Catholic. They don't need to undergo any sacraments, right? So a lot of other Protestants would need to undergo confirmation and things like that. First communion, they've already done that as Orthodox, right? And even the Orthodox priests, so like if they become Catholic, they can do that, right? So, if an Anglican priest converts, he has to be reordained. A Lutheran pastor converts, he has to be ordained, right? And one of the things here is obviously a regulation established by the competent authority, right? For exercising ministry as priests, we often have to jump through hoops. We have to do like child protection norms in the diocese. We have to do this, we have to do that, right? But like as far as doing child protection norms, for example, my community and a lot of dioceses require me to read a bulletin and answer a question every month. And then they might require doing a longer several hour, recertification every few years to know that I'm up to date and aware of all the child protection norms and all the ways to prevent child abuse in the church. And, it's not that like, oh, they convert, they are exempt from that. No, they would still be following all those type of things. And right. So paragraph 26 is starting about rules with sharing the sacraments with the Orthodox. This number, as I realize it now, I kind of cut it off right when it says, hey, and the rest of this will describe this in more detail. So this number will kind of continue on with what we cover tomorrow. So let's read it. A common participation in worship, communicatio and sacris, which harms unity of the church and involves formal acceptance of error or the danger of aberration in the faith, of scandal and indifferentism, is forbidden by divine law. On the other hand, pastoral experience shows certainly that as regards our Eastern brother, there should be taken into consideration the different cases of individuals where neither the unity of the church is hurt, nor are verified the dangers that must be avoided, but where the needs of salvation of souls and their spiritual good are impelling motives. For that reason, the Catholic Church has always adopted and now adopts a rather mild policy, offering to all the means of salvation an example of charity among Christians through participation in the sacraments and the other sacred functions and things. With this in mind, lest because of the harshness of our judgment, we be an obstacle to those seeking salvation, and in order more and more to promote union with the Eastern churches separated from us, the Sacred Council lays down the following policy. That's what I said, where it kind of just ends and it's like the next policy, the next few paragraphs, right? So obviously at the beginning we talked about this communicatio and sacris, which just means like, that like, for example, I as a Catholic priest can't concelebrate a Lutheran Eucharist because it's not a valid Eucharist, right? I can't have a Lutheran minister concelebrate a Catholic one because it's not valid, right? And that's not just something the church regulates, that's a divine authority, right? Divine law. It's, you can't change that because you can't make what is a memory of the Eucharist to the actual Eucharist, or what is the actual Eucharist to a memory of the Eucharist, right? That can't be changed. And so here we talk about there's a lot of room for individuals from Orthodoxy, as we don't really have any beliefs that affect our sacraments, right? However, I want to note here that we are generally more generous about this than Orthodox are themselves. Like the Orthodox, we should generally let them follow the orders of their bishop or their eparch, whatever else, so which are often stricter about like not receiving Catholic sacraments than we are about them not receiving our sacraments. Just so you're aware of that. But there's personal cases, right? So family, a Catholic marries an Orthodox person, right? Orthodox who are far from their church, right? For example, there may not be an Orthodox church at all in this town, and there may not be one that they're in communion with because the Orthodox are now split into several groups and things like that, right? And this is especially the case like in a hospital. Let's say the person is dying, right? So as a priest in a hospital, I can confess him as long as he asks for it. He has the faith in the sacraments. He expresses faith in the sacraments, right? Things like that. And there's not an Orthodox priest able to hear his confession at that moment, right? Those type of things. And so that's important. Oh, and noting about the strictness of the Orthodox bishops, the Russian Orthodox bishops tend to be stricter than, like, say, the Greek Orthodox bishops as a rule of thumb. It just varies a little bit. But this will set us up for what we're going to talk about tomorrow with the more precise policies. Thank you for listening to this episode of Vatican II in a Year. This is a listener-supported podcast. You could donate to help StarQuest produce it, another great podcast at sqpn.com/give. You can give one time, monthly, or join the StarQuest Patreon. Tomorrow we're going to continue with the next paragraphs in Orientalium Ecclesiatum, 27-30 on separated brethren in Eastern Orthodoxy inclusion. Just a note for those of you who are following the reading plan, somehow I wrote to 29, not to 30. There are 30 paragraphs here. We are going to finish it tomorrow, so you have to read paragraph 30 as well. Sorry for the typo, my fault. Please join us then to learn more about Vatican II, to provide a blueprint for the Catholic Church. Go to sqpn.com/Vatican, frmatthewlc.com/Vatican, or Vatican SQPN on Facebook and X for more information on the podcast, such as playlists for individual documents and a reading plan. Amen.